Welcome to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we're here to talk about what goes on in the village, the township. You know, those government people that make laws, regulations that affect you out there.
That's right, Elgin. And whether you live in the village of Oxford, the village of Leonard Addison Township, or Oxford Township, these are the people that you elected. And the commissions and the committees that make decisions that directly affect you, whether you chose to go to that meeting or not. And that's why we're here.
Well, partially. We are also here to spread rumors.
And confirm them.
And confirm them. And also to kind of find humor in these meetings.
Yeah.
You usually don't have to look far, do you?
No, and you know, sometimes you have to look at the top of the pile and sometimes at the bottom.
Yeah, and you know, like David says, you want to make sure you attend these meetings because if you don't, you will definitely find the humor, but it's usually later. And as you say, it's in taxes.
Taxes.
And other things.
Yeah, so if you don't want your ox to get gored, attend the meeting.
Right, good idea. Anyhow, let's talk about some of the meetings that we had in the last week or so. One of the most interesting ones, I think, is the Oxford Village Council meeting. Another one is the Oxford Township Budget meeting. And the last one we're going to try to talk about is the Oxford Village Planning Commission meeting. Got a lot to kind of pack in there, don't we?
Things happening in Oxford.
Yep, they are. Well, we're going to actually combine two meetings that the Village Council had into one. The one meeting that they had, they did ask if there were presentations. There were no presentations from the audience. The call to the public, none. Minutes, they covered the minutes for the past few weeks that they had committee meetings. I want to say the Village Council, they have a lot of special meetings. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
As well as the regular meeting?
Yeah, well.
A lot of things going on there.
Well, you've got a lot of things going on. There's been a lot of personnel changes.
Yes, and we'll talk about that in just a moment here. There were bills that they had to pay for, and those bills were $235,000. $235,000.
Well,
and
it's just like my petty cash.
Well, $888.77. Now that would be your petty cash.
Okay. Well.
Okay, but they approved it, of course. Unfinished business, none, under old business. And then they said under new business, they want to talk about rezoning 98 Glaspie Street.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we're talking about Glaspie Street again. Now, keep in mind that, remember, Clearview Homes is building a development in that
76 unit?
No.
That was the old one.
Right.
How many units?
This is going to have 16 units, I believe.
16,
Yeah.
right.
So anyway, so they need to take the back part of the property, which is zone R3, and make it R1. Now, the differentiation between the R3 and R1 is actually the size of the property lot.
Oh,
So they can go to a smaller size with an R1.
okay.
And after quite a bit of discussion, they agreed that that was the approach to take.
But they're going to classify it to R1?
Yeah, R1. Going
Why
to make
would-
it R1. Residential 1,
Okay.
Giving less space requirement,
Okay.
you know, for a piece of property. Okay, makes sense to you?
Sure.
Oh, all right. Let's travel on then, shall we?
Travel on.
Okay. Let me see. Chief Solwald, who's taken over Chief Niemanowski's
Is he
job.
acting chief or actual
Yeah,
chief?
he's the acting chief, and actually I consider him a chief
Right.
because he is a chief. All the rest are Indians.
If it looks like a chief, smells like a chief, it is
Yeah,
a chief, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much is a chief. Okay. So anyway, so he gave a presentation before the board in which he asked for a computer for one of the vehicles. And the vehicle is one that is an extra vehicle that he wants to use for the commercial officer, which they just hired not long ago.
What's a commercial officer?
That's an officer that pulls over trucks, checks trucks, that
Oh.
kind of thing.
I thought MDOT did that.
Well, no. Your village officer does that.
Really?
Coming through town.
Okay.
Yep. So watch out if you're a big truck.
Yikes.
You know, make sure you're within the limits and those kind of things. And do not speed through Oxford Village.
Oh, for God's sake,
Yeah.
don't speed through
Right.
Oxford Village.
It would be a terrific mistake, and it sets your assets back considerably in terms of what your funding is. Okay. So anyway, he put together a cost estimate, and the cost estimate for this computer is $3,620. He said, but the money can be appropriated, he said, from the improvement fund. And he said, which has $5,000 in it. So they thought, well, that's a no-brainer. We'll go ahead and approve it.
All right. Did they?
They did.
Well,
They did. They traveled on, right. Let me see. Then they wanted to talk about Park Street drainage. Remember that? We talked about that before.
Someone built a facility or a house or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and it interfered with the guy that was downhill.
Right. He collected all the water, and of course, one of the council members, he said, excuse me, when did you not discover that water runs downhill? So anyway, so they're
Or as my wife says, gravity always wins.
right. And the owner of the home at the bottom of the hill, he says, and by the way, that water ends up right in my basement.
Oh,
So that's a problem.
at least it's contained.
It is contained in the basement. But it's out in his yard too, though, until it,
Oh, yeah.
goes to a lower level.
And that's too bad. Now, you understand the village took the hit for it.
Somewhat they did. However, I believe it cost to fix the road roughly and fix this situation is $2,600. And the developer approved paying half of it. So the village they're going to get hooked for half of it. But it's
Did the village accept any responsibility for the remediation of this guy's basement?
I think that's under still consideration, but I believe they're checking into insurance and that kind of thing to
I
cover
see.
that.
No comment, as it is under litigation.
That's the magic word. No comment.
I see.
At this point, okay?
Okay.
So anyway, he'll be taken care of.
I'm
If
sure.
Supa Sarda has her.
Yeah. The village
way.
steps up when it's responsible for something.
Well, Supa Sarda in the past, she mentioned when she first heard this, this is a problem that was created not by the homeowner, so it's
Exactly.
going to have to be fixed.
Right.
That was pretty. Now, maybe not in those exact words, but she was pretty forceful in that. I thought
She
that was
may
good.
use those words.
Yep. You're right, exactly. All right, so then, let me see, no council member, they said with the release of the manager, Joe Young is going to be leaving. I told you we'd get back to that one, didn't I?
Yep.
Joe Young will be leaving. March 31st is his last date. And the attorney said under the charter, no council member can fill that position. They need somebody in temporarily, but no council member can fill it
Oh.
unless they've been off the board for 2 years or more. And that doesn't cover anyone that really is going to fill that slot.
You can't, a council member can't fill it unless they've been off the board.
Right.
So
For
they
a
wouldn't
matter
be
of 2
council-
years.
So they wouldn't be a council
Well,
member.
It'll be an ex. Yeah, you're right. They would be an ex, a has-been. That would be me. I'd be one of them.
There you go.
Okay. So anyway, so that's.
So when do you start?
No, I couldn't pay me enough for that job. I'll tell you, no way that would happen. I'm retired. Remember?
You keep saying that.
You're right. Okay. You people remember that if I ever try to do something dumb. Okay. Try to stop me before I get there. All right. So they have to fill this slot, by the way, by April 1st. Just so you know.
Whoa.
Right. And
Where do they post for something like that?
Well, they're actually going to go to the Michigan Municipal League,
Ah,
where there's normally about 20 applicants out there for this type of job.
okay.
Now, President Supa Sarda said, well, that don't mean that we're going to use anybody from that list, but it's a place to start.
Right.
Which he's right. Okay. Now, to help move
But
this.
they would also be publishing some, for lack of another term, want ads.
Well, I don't know if they're going to take that road. As a matter of
really?
fact, I'm going to tell you how this is going to work.
Well, okay then.
They said we're going to. They said we want to establish a committee that will do
dear.
a search.
Oh dear.
Yeah, yes, they're going to form another committee. That's pretty much what government does, you know, right?
But this has to be done by April, right?
It has to be done by April 1st. Now there's the clinker right there. We'll talk about clinkers when we come back.
What time is it now?
Right after this with more. Right. Welcome back to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we are talking about the Oxford Village Council and what's kind of going on there. There have been a number of things that have happened. For example, the police chief retired. That would be Chief Niemanowski.
Niemanowski.
Yep. And Officer Solwald has taken over that position. Our DDA director, Downtown Development Director, Joe Frost, he resigned.
He resigned.
He went to the county.
Yeah, it was, more opportunity,
Right,
basically.
but he still lives in the village, and he's very active with the new task force for M24. You know,
Right.
you folks, we've talked about it before, but in the year 2019, they're going to redo that whole road through town.
Or as they say, in another 2 years.
Another 2 years.
That's been the continuous thing.
Continuous thing. Well, this is pretty much they're in. MDOT
Okay.
says they're scheduled and they're going to do some. What DDA, Downtown Development, has to do is they have to provide a streetscape. Now is the time to do it if they're going to do it. If they need to widen areas or they need to redo sidewalks and that kind
They've
of thing.
been
or add
studying this
lights.
for a long time.
Oh, they have.
Yeah.
But it's down to the nitty gritty kind of now.
Someone has to make a decision.
Right. They have a company that is going to work with the village on this, and they're consultants, the same people that actually did the architectural layout and so forth for the project, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
There's only one constraint. They can't move the buildings back.
Yeah. There's another constraint too, and that is that we're not going to spend, or the village isn't going to spend 4.7 or $8 million. Instead, it's going to come to the tune of about 2.2 million. But the good news is there's grant monies available that will cover, if not all of it, most of it. And even the Oakland County has said they're going to assist us in some way.
Good,
They
good,
want to use
good.
this as a satellite, maybe,
Or a model.
or a model.
A
One of
new
those.
paradigm.
A new paradigm. but anyway, it looks like there's some good things going to happen downtown. But when it's torn up, DDA, of course, is dealing with that too, and how it can be, traffic can be routed, and businesses won't be harmed in any major sense. It's good thinking, right?
That sounds like the ultimate win-win.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll satisfy everyone.
Well, I'm sure they will. About those fire and pitchforks, you might want to keep them handy. But anyway, so getting back to this committee, we had mentioned that the village is going to have a committee to search for a new village manager.
Okay.
Well, according to the attorney, Bob Davis, he said that it has to consist of one person who did not vote, you know, to terminate the contract.
That leaves 2.
So Maureen Helmuth agreed to be on that board.
Okay.
The president is going to be on the board, which that would be Sue Bassardit.
What would have happened had it been unanimous?
I don't know. That's a question we'll never know
I
answer
guess.
to, would we? One of those, well, take a note.
Ask the lawyer.
Ask a lawyer, yeah. And of course, the village clerk is involved in this as well.
Okay.
And there's one more person that they asked to be on this board.
You?
No,
Oh,
Joe Young.
really?
Yeah. Now,
Well, he knows what. If you're going to ask a guy, what's the job? That's the job. He knows it.
I think it's great. I mean, you got somebody who's been terminated. Now you're telling him,
Well-
go ahead and replace yourself.
Well, I think that's a mark of professionalism, actually.
Well, I think it tells you a lot about the man's character.
Yeah.
Most people would say, what?
See ya.
Right. So anyway, everybody knows Joe.
And he's sticking on till the end of the month, and that's another
He
mark
is.
of professionalism.
Well, Joe is doing it, I think, because he's just Joe. He's a good
Yeah.
guy.
He cares about he cares about the village.
And I think, it was one of the council members even commented on his professional demeanor, in this process. And I think it was candy coating the situation. I don't think it was a good thing to do maybe to Joe at this point, to have him on this committee at least. But
Well,
anyway, that's the way it's said, and that's the way the attorney said that it would
So it is
go.
written, so shall
So
it
it is
be.
written, shall be. Let's look at it in the years come. Let's see what happens.
Yep.
But anyway, we wish Joe the best out there, of course, in his pursuits. I'm
Yep.
sure that he'll be in demand.
How long
by
has he
some
been on the
other
job?
community.
17 years, something like that?
17 years.
17 years.
Yep.
Wow.
Long time.
Okay.
All right, so they went on with it, and that's pretty much what occurred. They asked for comments from the council members, and Maureen said that she'd like to discuss in the future upcoming meeting Susan Nasser, who is the village clerk. There's some concerns there as to what possibilities there might be with Susan Nasser and retaining her services with the village. So that, keep an eye on that one, folks.
Why is
See
that
what
an issue?
happens. Well, now here's a rumor. The rumor is that she doesn't plan on staying with the village.
Okay.
So
Can I
yeah.
confirm that or deny it?
Well, I think you can confirm it if you want. I don't know, but
Okay.
yeah, that's the feedback that we have,
Yeah,
from
I-
the source. So
Sue's done a good job.
she is. She's very capable, good worker.
Yep.
committed
I
to the
think
community.
Everybody liked her.
I think,
Likes her.
yeah, for whatever reason, I think she's thinking about moving on.
Okay.
And I think they may try to persuade because they'll throw out some money and say, here's $20,000 more, and would you consider staying? I don't know if that's going to work
Not
in
that
this case.
what you just said would ever affect negotiations.
Right. Now, the other thing we want to talk about here is, and that is that they talk about the ability to, what do you want to call it? Be feasible, economically feasible for the village. In other words, doing the right thing. And you have to think about this for a moment. In the last month, they've paid out in attorney's fees and severance fees in over $40,000, from your tax money.
Oh, that's not chump change.
It's not chump change, especially when you're trying to save money for the village.
Yeah.
So that's a consideration. Again, folks, watch what's going on out there. You can catch these meetings, on OCCTV.org.
Yep. Word for word.
Word for word. And you can see the tiger as they speak.
No
right on the
Reader's
spot.
Digest summary of events. This is word for word.
That's for sure. Now, I do want to mention that Bill Dunn, supervisor of the township, he stood up in front of the group and he said, look, I know that you pretty much have some issues, with the village. Excuse me, that's putting it mildly. But he said that if you need our assistance, he said, we have a treasurer, Joe Ferrari,
Right.
and myself. He said, we're willing to, help you in any way we can, with the administrative side of, until you recover from what you have.
Right.
So anyway, not exactly in those words either, but
No,
I
but
think
the township is always ready to step in and help
Yep.
the village, I think.
I think it was a good gesture on the part of Bill Dunn and the township. Let's see, Brian Cloutier, he stood up at one of the meetings. He said, you may have heard the rumor. Have you heard the rumor?
Not yet.
may have you heard the rumor, he said, that the library computer was compromised. You didn't hear that one, did you?
How do you compromise? You mean it got hacked?
Everybody stole all the books. No,
I mean, how was it compromised?
I have no idea.
I mean, it
But he said,
sounds weird.
he said that we keep the data bank, he said, with all the names of the people who are members of the library.
Oh, you're talking about the central computer,
Yes.
okay.
Actually in an area that's uncompromised. So he said he wanted the public to know that you were safe. Nobody got any of your information, address information, or anything like that.
Oh, good.
That was good.
So, but did they get it remediated?
Well, he's got it taken care of. That's what you mean.
Yeah.
He had the super people jump in there with their little cloaks and everything and
Oh,
took care of it.
cyber sleuths.
Yeah, and you folks are very fortunate in the fact that you do have Brian Cloutier as the executive director
Right.
for the library. Really sharp guy, smart. He watches everything in terms of finances and his people.
Yep.
Very friendly. Best library in the area, I think. Don't
Oh,
you?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, with that, we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we just got through talking about the Oxford Village Council. Let's go on to the Oxford Township Budget meeting, which they had on February 22nd. And the main thing that came out of that, there's a discussion over the sewer and water expense that's going to be to the township eventually. And there's going to be a rate increase down the line.
Is this new sewer and water or replacing old sewer and
Replacing
water?
old sewer and water
Okay.
equipment.
Okay. You got to do
We're
it
not
from
gonna
time to
put new
time. Well, you
sewer
got to
and
do
water.
it from time to time, but wears out.
Yeah, it does. Okay, and the other thing that they did discuss is Parks and Recreation to make a loan to them at an interest rate to be determined down the line, but they currently have a
Making a loan to
to
Parks and Rec?
purchase property. To purchase property,
Oh.
there's about roughly 5 acres of land that's available right now that would join with the park and Seymour Lake.
Ah,
And so Ron Davis presented an opportunity, I think, to be able to purchase this property. And currently they have a loan which is about to expire with the township, and the rate that's being paid there, I believe, is like 3%, which is more than what you get at the bank. But he's going to, of course, work it out with the treasury people or the financial people with the township.
Okay.
And they will be paying an interest on it, and they did approve $130,000. It's just a matter of rolling it over to his other loan that he has, as I say, about to be completed. So, good move.
Ron's done a heck of a job with the parks in Oxford.
Yep, they approved up to $200,000 for it. So anyway, so that took care of that, and Ron has done an excellent job. There's no question about it. I'll tell you, I've sat in on budget meetings with Ron for Parks and Recreation. I can tell you that just about everything. I mean, he dots all his I's, his T's, and he's pretty much got an answer for everything that he's asked for. Not asking more than what he feels he needs to operate.
Yeah. He's
The
got
organization.
He's got the big one at Seymour Lake. He's got the
Yep.
one on Oakwood Road. He's got
Yeah.
the one down by Oxford Lake.
Yeah, what's the one with the frisbees they do over here? Metamora, or near Metamora in that direction?
Was that the Oxford
Yeah.
or Oakwood Road?
Oakwood
one?
Road, yeah.
Okay. I forgot what they call that
Yeah,
particular park.
I did too, but we were out there not long ago. I guess doing a program out there. But anyway, so he does a great job. His people do a great job. Yeah, keep them going.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Oxford Village Planning Commission. Gary Douglas is the chair of that board. Gary Deeg sits on it, and he was excused because he wasn't there that evening. Jack Curtis sits on the board, Rose Bema, Maureen Helmuth, and Adam Johnson. And there is a vacancy out there, by the way, for this board. And so if you're interested in being part of the Planning Commission for the Oxford Village, contact the main office and let them know. And you know, they'll do an interview with you, and hopefully you'll be approved by the Oxford Village Council, you know, for the Planning Commission. They do a good job too. They did a pledge and went through the preliminaries. They had a public hearing about 98 Glaspie Street, which we just mentioned, to change it from R3 to R1. By the way, that was recommended to the council, and you heard from the previous conversation I had, it was approved by the council.
You're working backwards here.
I'm working backwards. Yep. Should have probably did this one first. The other one was more exciting. That's why I hit that one first. But anyway, and they'll continue to be more exciting, as I say. Let me see. They had a couple of people that stood up, were concerned. There was Kelly Arkins, who lives on Thornhill Trail, and she wanted to know how many units were being built in there, and we discussed that. There's 16 going to go in. There was a gentleman, Mark Miner, who also discussed a couple of items. He was concerned with the housing also. And of course the drainage. You want to know where the drainage went? They said, well, it'll go in your backyard if it works the same as Park Street. No, that wasn't what they did.
We got all our ducks in a row.
Right, they learn. They learn as they go along. Hopefully they will learn, but anyway, so.
And that's why they're ducks.
Right, that's why they're ducks. Richard Sloter on Pearl Drive, he said that he was concerned with the Scripture Trail because he said he walks the Scripture Trail.
Where's Scripture Trail?
It's part of the Pollyanna, I think, down there, near the lake, I think, somewheres. But anyway, so he said that there have been limbs falling across this trail, and he said,
I mean tree limbs, you mean?
tree limbs. Okay. Tree limbs. Yeah. And he said, you know, it's getting awful difficult to walk the track, being you got to run and jump over and run and jump over. So anyway, so he was wondering who was going to take care of that. And so that was passed on actually to the village manager to finish up within his 31 days. This was what happens. Hopefully, I'm sure Joe will send it to the proper people. Let me see, what else we got? Oh, Kelly Arkle. She said, what are the plans going to be for the site plans for this building? What are the buildings going to look like? And they said, well, we don't have the final site plan yet, so we don't have everything in yet. And that would be according to
They've defined
McKenna
the,
and
have they defined the
Associates.
lots yet?
No, that's not actually defined. By going to R1 instead of R3, that redefines what they can do.
So they got to get back to the drawing boards.
Well, they will, and they'll have a site plan provided as they said, the representative from McKenna and Associates, okay, which is writing on top of this as well. Said that, let's see, there's a master plan that's going to be decided soon.
Every 5 years?
Every 5 years is when it's done, but they're working on that master plan. Let me see, Chuck Snyder.
Yes.
Chuck says, hey,
Chuck never has anything to say.
hey, I'm here.
What's
So-
Chuck saying?
Well, Chuck says that you want to be careful on this property because he says the east portion of the property line needs to be surveyed where the trees are. He said, I think those trees belong to
Oxford Lakes?
not that property, but to the trail along there.
Oh.
And so, you know, you might want to check in that, even though the trees are kind of scrabbly, you know, kind of.
And MDOT owns the
not
trail,
most-
right?
Yeah. I don't know.
Or
who
DNR.
owns it.
DNR owns the
DNR would
trail.
own it.
Yeah,
Probably.
sorry, I got the
okay.
wrong-
We'll say that anyway.
Wrong 3 letters.
That sounds like a good rumor. We'll do that. Right? All right. DNR will be calling your number tomorrow, probably, beating on your door.
Do not
Okay.
repeat.
Do not repeat. Okay. So anyway, Jack Curtis said that he would want to make a motion to approve the R3 from R3 to R1, and that was so done. It was moved forward. Let me see. Corey from McKenna and Associates, who was there, he proposed a zoning ordinance and zoning map be created for buildings. He said that rentals, you know, for example, he said there's a big need in the community for 800 square foot, you know, rentals, you know, for people that are like college kids, that kind of thing.
Oh.
But there's a lot of conversation about that, and some of the people on this board and planning commission, they felt that 500,
Is that what you call a studio apartment?
yeah, well, it'd be like kids going to college,
Sure.
you know, that kind of thing. And like Chuck Snyder, who,
You mean does that mean we're getting to college?
no, well, we could, I don't know if that's gonna happen down the line, but anyway, that'd be up to the economic development group that, you know, bring a college.
All right.
But anyway, Chuck Snyder says, you gotta consider this, the square footage cost, you know, 500 square feet, and you're gonna go to 800 and so forth. So he said, I think probably the way to look at this is to get affordable housing, period. And he said, and it should probably meet whatever the market will dictate in terms of, you know, what it can bring in terms of size and so forth. So they did actually pretty much agree on a 400 to 800 square foot, you know, as a possibility.
400?
Well, that would be pretty small, but there's big and 5. You know, it could be 400, 600, 800, so forth.
Like
It
a
had-
multiple use
yeah.
closet.
And this is at a stage where it's strictly discussion and
Okay,
conjecture
all
at
right.
this point. So nothing is stamped. What's coming up? Speaking of stamped.
Well, we do have meetings. It is March. And on 3/7 at 7 o'clock, the Village of Oxford Planning Commission, your favorite. And at 3/8, 7 o'clock, the Oxford Township Board of Trustees. I'm sure you're going to cover that one.
Yep.
On 3/9, at 6 o'clock, the Addison Township Zoning Board of Appeals, and you know how that goes. You got to check because a lot of times they cancel it. And at 7 o'clock that same day, on 3/9, Oxford Township Planning Commission. And on 3/13 at 7 o'clock, the Oxford Township Zoning Board of Appeals, same warning. And at 7 o'clock, the Village of Leonard Council.
Yes, okay. Well, I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
We'll catch you next time right here on Minutes by Minutes.
See you then.